On the surface, it might sound like a small piece of military news. Germany sending some old ships to be dismantled. But in reality, this marks the end of a major era in the German Navy. We're talking about the Gepard-class missile boats, vessels that once represented the cutting edge of Cold War naval warfare. Today, they've sailed their last mission, and their story tells us a lot about how military strategy has evolved over the last 4 decades. To understand why these boats were important, we need to go back to the early 1980s. Germany, then split into East and West, was on the front line of the Cold War. The West German Navy needed ships that were small, fast, heavily armed, and able to operate close to shore. The answer was the Type 143, a Gepard-class fast attack craft. They were about 57.6 meters long, displaced around 390 tons, and could reach speeds of up to 40 knots. That's about 74 kilometers per hour. They carried 4 mm-38 Exocet anti-ship missiles, a 76 mm Otto Melara naval gun, a 21-cell ram launcher for air defense, and even mine-laying capability. In short, they were small in size, but packed with firepower. These boats weren't designed for long ocean voyages or massive battleships. They had a very specific job: operate in coastal waters, strike quickly, and retreat before the enemy could respond. In the Cold War context, they were meant to defend the Baltic Sea approaches and counter Soviet naval forces. Their speed and agility meant they could hit much larger enemy ships and then vanish into the coastal landscape. Think of them as the naval equivalent of a fighter jet, making a low-level bombing run and then disappearing off radar. The first Gepard-class boats entered service in 1982, replacing the earlier Albatross class. For decades, they formed the backbone of Germany's fast attack forces. They were reliable, easy to maintain, and capable of delivering a serious punch in coastal defense scenarios. But over time, technology moved on. Naval warfare started shifting towards larger, multi-role ships with better range, stealth features, and advanced sensors. Still, the Gepards held on, with upgrades to their weapons and electronics. Some were even transferred to other navies like Ghana, extending their operational lives beyond German service. By the early 2010s, Germany began phasing them out. 2 boats were retired in 2012, and the rest followed over the next few years. On November 16, 2016, the final 4, Hermelin, Zobel, Frechen, and Haiyan, were officially decommissioned. This was more than just a ceremonial event. It was the closure of the German Navy's fast attack era. Now, the very last Gepard boats have been sent for dismantling. So why should we care about the retirement of a few old ships? Because it tells us how military priorities have changed. During the Cold War, the threat was a massive Soviet fleet in the Baltic and North Seas. Today's threats are different. Modern navies focus on multi-role corvettes, frigates, and submarines. Germany has replaced the Gepards with the K-130 Braunschweig-class corvettes, bigger, stealthier, and more versatile ships built for modern warfare. In the end, the Gepard-class boats represent a different era, a time when speed, agility, and concentrated firepower were the ultimate assets in naval combat. They served faithfully for more than 30 years, adapting to changing technologies and missions, and even found second lives in other countries' navies. Their retirement marks not just the end of a class of ships, but the end of a specific naval philosophy. And as these last vessels are taken apart for scrap, they remind us that military hardware, no matter how advanced, will one day be replaced. Not because it failed, but because the world around it changed. That's the story of the Gepard class, from Cold War hunter to historic memory.